Alright, in order to solve this equation by completing the square, what we're going to do on the left-hand side of the equation is make this a perfect square trinomial. We do that by taking half of the b value, in this case a positive 7. So we divide that by 2. 7 divided by 2 we'll write as a fraction as 2 halves. We're then going to square that value and add that to our equation. So it'll look like this. So again, half of 7 is 7 halves. We're then going to square that. When we square that, it becomes 49 over 4. We need to add that to both sides of our equation. Then this left-hand side will factor very perfectly and appropriately for what we're trying to do. This will become x plus 7 halves squared. And the 7 halves is the 7 halves that was half of that b value here that we end up squaring. And then on the right-hand side of the equation, we're just going to add 18 and 49/4. We got to find a common denominator, add those together, and we'll get 121 over 4. Alright, so we've completed the square. This is our first step. Now we're going to solve this equation using the square root. In order to do that, take the square root of both sides of this equation, and what we get is x plus 7 halves on the left-hand side, because the square root gets rid of the square here. And on the right-hand side, we get plus and minus the square root of 121 over 4. Okay, I'm going to clean up that right-hand side. We can apply that square root by taking the square root of the numerator and the denominator. The square root of 121 is 11, and the square root of 4 is 2. And then finally, to solve for x, we just need to subtract 7 halves from both sides. So I get x equals, and we usually will write this 7 halves here on the right-hand side out front. So this is negative 7 halves plus and minus 11 halves. Alright, and so we just need to find these two values by completing both of these operations. So negative 7 halves plus 11 halves and negative 7 halves minus 11 halves. On top here, negative 7 plus 11 is a positive 4 halves, which simplifies down to 2. And on the bottom here, we get negative 18 halves, which simplifies down to negative 9. And there are our two solutions to this equation.